State Representatives Marilyn John and Nick Santucci. Thank you for joining me on Message from the House.
Thanks for having us.
Good to be with you.
It's a beautiful morning here in the state capitol.
It's a beautiful morning in Columbus.
It certainly is.
Here.
And we are talking about manufacturing, which I've learned just in the last couple minutes is even bigger an industry in Ohio than I probably even realized. So excited to...
It is. It's very important to the state of Ohio and employment, and we have lots of residents who work in the manufacturing industry, so very important.
Yeah, can't wait to dive into that. First, I want to ask, both of you are on House Majority Leadership, this General Assembly. In addition to that, if you could just tell me a little bit about yourselves and your districts.
Sure. So again, I'm Marilyn John, and I am from the great county of Richland, and it's in north central Ohio. I grew up in Richland County. I live in Shelby, Ohio. Go Shelby Whippets. And I started off my political career as the mayor of the city of Shelby, and I loved being the mayor, and there's so many great things going on in our community. I became a county commissioner and was a county commissioner for about 6 years, and I'm in my third term here in the Ohio House and am enjoying it immensely. I feel like we're all going in a great direction, and there's great teamwork, especially amongst leadership, and I really enjoy working with Representative Santucci and all the other members of leadership and helping the other members of the House really achieve their goals. So things are great here.
Rep. Santucci?
Yeah, thank you, Olivia. It's good to be with you. I represent the 64th District in Trumbull County. Warren City is my metro city. A lot of times folks will say, oh, you're from Youngstown. I say, I'm not from Youngstown. I'm from Warren. Totally different county, totally different community. I live in Niles with my wife and my daughter, and things are going good. I want to echo Rep. John's comments. I really appreciate the compliment, but also the feeling's very mutual. She does a great job for our caucus, and we're all working hard and trying to move the state forward. And I think it's really great. My district and my community has always been a manufacturing industrial kind of powerhouse. So really excited and honored to be here with you today and with Rep. John, of course, to talk about kind of where we're going with manufacturing, how the legislature could support manufacturing, and what next steps are. So thanks for having me today.
Yes, absolutely. And I do want to mention that October is Manufacturing Month in Ohio. So we found it important enough to highlight it with a specific month. Representative John, I will ask, why is this industry important in the state? I know that's a very broad question, and specifically for your district. Kind of talk me through that.
So I actually grew up in a manufacturing family. My dad retired from General Motors. There used to be a General Motors plant in my district. And I remember as a little girl, every 4 years they would open the plant for tours. And we looked forward to getting to go see where Dad went to work. And walking through a General Motors plant, and it was a big family day. So that was very important to my family. Also, my husband is an engineer, and he worked at the largest manufacturing facility in the northern part of the county, where they make tubing, seamless steel tube. It's actually the birthplace of seamless steel tube in Shelby, Ohio. And so we're really proud of that. Our son graduated. He's a mechanical engineer, and he works for a manufacturer over in Orville, where they work in the defense industry. And so his name is Noah, and he makes parts for boats, which I think is very appropriate. But so I kind of grew up in manufacturing, and manufacturing touches really every part of our lives. If you think about, you can just look around a room, and manufacturing has been part of that, whether it's the furniture we're sitting in, the mics that we're talking into, the lights, the cars that we drove to get here. All of those things touch almost every aspect of our lives. And so it's very important to my district. We have almost 200 businesses that are involved in manufacturing in Richland County, just under 200. And we do when you look at education, education is very important to manufacturing. We spend a lot of time talking with our local colleges, developing programs to work within the manufacturing industry. And I think a lot of people think that manufacturing is all about the equipment and the machinery, but it's also about accounting. It's about marketing. It's about human resources. So there's a lot of jobs that work within the manufacturing industry that you may not even think of when you think of manufacturing, which is another reason it's so important to the state of Ohio and really the country.
You know, we've invested as the legislature, we've invested in career tech centers and community colleges. A lot of these jobs that currently exist in manufacturing are in-demand jobs. These are jobs that, and to Rep. John's point, these are jobs that aren't dirty jobs. There's other jobs in manufacturing that exist, and they're great career opportunities, sometimes $30+ an hour to be employed. And so Ohio has always been the leader of building things and doing things, and our access to freeway is really great, which is why I think Ohio has been on the map as the leader in the country for manufacturing. And I think she did a great job. Yeah.
And I want to ask, I didn't even know this statistic. I guess Ohio, which you just hit on, ranks number 1 in the Midwest.
That's right.
And number 3 in the entire nation as far as manufacturing in that sector. So Representative Santucci, I want to talk about funding and resources for this sector in Ohio. How does funding help manufacturing, and why is that top of the list as far as legislating?
Yeah, great question. So I would say there's ultimately 3 things that the legislature invested in manufacturing in Ohio to try to move the needle. The first one is workforce development, like we just talked about. Those career tech centers, those community colleges, that's making sure that we have a qualified, capable human capital entering into the workforce, and they're employed in jobs that pay very, very good. They're good career jobs. The second way I would say that the legislature invested, or Ohio is kind of keeping our eyes on manufacturing, is modernization and innovation, right? So we've got a lot of new technologies that are now coming. There's advanced manufacturing, there's clean energy upgrades, there's competitive competition globally that we have to invest in. So modernizing these companies that are here in Ohio, giving them the technologies they need so they could produce their product and move it forward is going to make Ohio number 1, not number 3 nationally, and that's ultimately what we want. And I would say the third thing is regional partnerships. You know, as we look at Ohio and we look at population data, we see folks moving into Ohio and some moving out of Ohio. So recognizing that being regional, supporting these companies from a regional standpoint, helping to attract the supply chain of that company. So if we're building a little widget and that company needs certain pieces and parts, but that part isn't available except in California, what is it going to take to attract that California company to move to Ohio so that our Ohio company can produce their product quicker? That's ultimately what we want. We want those companies moving to Ohio, leaving other states, and investing in our beautiful state. And I think we're going to get there. There's great companies like Jobs Ohio that focuses a lot on manufacturing. And in my market, the Lake to River Economic Development Group, that's their whole job. So if there's manufacturers listening to this podcast today, talk to your Jobs Ohio regional partner and see what grants and available dollars exist so that they can invest in their company and touch on some of those 3 things that I highlighted.
And I think that that's important to mention and highlight too, that there are resources for these companies.
Absolutely. Rep. Santucci talked about Jobs Ohio.
Yeah.
And how there are different regions within the state. And that's something, as a local elected official, I worked a lot with, and other elected officials in the region did. He mentioned his economic development organization in his district. And in District 76, we have the Richland Community Development Group.
Yep.
And that was founded back in 2009 by 8 individuals that came from the industry, came from several of them from manufacturing. And they wanted to see a more vibrant economic development entity within our region. And so they came together and they put money into it and organized this group that is now the economic development entity for our entire region. So innovation that he talked about, like we have a legacy of innovation in Ohio. When I mentioned ArcelorMittal and Shelby and the seamless steel tube, that we are the birthplace of the seamless steel tube. That was over 100 years ago that innovation took place in Ohio, in Richland County. And so there's so much innovation that has happened in the history of our state when it comes to manufacturing and many other things that we are continuing to build on in the legislature.
And I think, when folks broadly think of manufacturing, we think of the huge plants, right? Like the big plants and all the fancy equipment and things like that. But it's the smaller to mid-sized businesses too that really make the economy tick and help with jobs. And I want to ask Rep. John, other than the two that you mentioned, what does the landscape look like in your district and the state as far as the different manufacturing companies?
So we have a lot of different manufacturers in Richland County, in that area of the state. One of them is Gorman Rupp, is a pump manufacturer. So when you think about, they make pumps that go into water facilities.
Oh, wow.
But they also make small pumps. And they have a great heritage. The founder of the company passed away just recently in the last few years, almost 100 years old.
Oh, wow.
And so we have a lot. Also, I mentioned that we had a General Motors plant. So there are a lot of small supply chain when it comes to the auto industry. Even though we don't have General Motors in Richland County any longer, the state of Ohio still has a lot of auto industry. And so there are smaller supply chain. So when you think of your car or an appliance, your washer and dryer, and all of the supply chain that goes into ultimately getting that, whatever it is, your car, your washer, dryer, whatever, in your home, the supply chain is really where the smaller manufacturers feed into it, and they make up a great deal of employment. And as Rep. Santucci mentioned, really good paying jobs for individuals that are graduating from high school. A lot of those jobs don't require a college education. Now, almost all jobs today require some type of certification, and that's where a lot of we have invested in that, certificates, as well as higher education in the state of Ohio. But it really, the smaller manufacturers that are in the supply chain leading up to this, that's a large part of the industry that we represent.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that down, because even, that helps it click even in my brain. And I'm sure people listening, there are so many different aspects that feed into the big overarching manufacturing term. Representative Santucci, I want to pivot because we're talking in this direction and having a good conversation here as far as supporting the industry budget wins. I know that there was a lot of funding that you were successful in securing.
Yeah, sure. Well, so the budget, I would say our budget did focus on the three things earlier that I talked about: workforce development with our community schools, or our community colleges and our career tech schools, modernization and innovation, and regional partnerships. So our budget was focused primarily on those three things to invest in the manufacturing space. I will say that there's one bill, if I could give a shameless plug for my own legislation here, is House Bill 435 that I introduced with Rep. Demetrio, that would create essentially a grant program at the Department of Development that would allow smaller manufacturers to apply for these dollars and invest in their technology. So what we've seen in Ohio is a lot of manufacturers are producing their product, but their technology is lapsing, meaning the technology is getting older. And for us to compete globally, we've got to invest in our technology so they can produce a product much faster. And so when we're looking at the landscape of Ohio, House Bill 435, I think, will help alleviate some of those roadblocks that a lot of our manufacturers face. So we talked a little bit about the budget. I had my own shameless plug. I hope you don't mind. But
no, I'm happy that you brought that up.
I'm pretty proud of that bill. And I think if we're able to get it passed, which I have a good feeling we will, hopefully the Senate will move it quickly and we'll get it, enacted. So, and that will help employers 500 or less. And the idea is to help those smaller manufacturers that Rep. John is talking about, that supply chain that's producing this product and giving it to the larger companies. That helps them compete and move quicker. So.
Yeah, wonderful. I want to ask both of you, how do you think that we're talking about these companies with their technology getting older over the years. How do you see manufacturing and how it's changed in the state of Ohio over the last 10 years?
Well, innovation, automation, certainly, as Rep. Santucci mentioned, getting products out faster, having the ability to do that, I think that has changed a lot. One of the things I've noticed, though, I mentioned as a little girl going through General Motors and now going through manufacturing facilities, I am amazed at how clean they are.
It's true.
Oh, wow.
It is really amazing if you go through a manufacturing facility, how clean they are now. And I think a lot of that has to do with the changes in technology and machinery and those types of things. And I also think that that's a help in attracting young people to the industry. We do a manufacturers day in Richland County, and we have several hundred students that go through our local manufacturers. And part of it is we want them to see what manufacturing is today and all of the different jobs that are available to them. I mentioned that, you have accounting, marketing, HR, quality control. So we want them to get a good picture of what manufacturing is today, maybe not what it was. Now these children are graduating, so they're, maybe they're grandparents, but what it is today, how it is clean, the changes that have happened, and all of the jobs that are available to them. So I do think that technology has changed how we see manufacturing, maybe what it was 50 years ago compared to today, and how that is helping us to attract students to the field.
Absolutely. Yeah, you don't think of, oil everywhere, rusty material.
It's really not like that.
Yeah.
We've got to get you out to a manufacturing facility.
I know. I would appreciate that. I missed my opportunity for the summer road trip traveling, but now we're, locked
We can
in
take
here.
care of that. Let us know.
Yes.
You're welcome to
That's
our
right.
districts anytime.
District 64 is always open to you.
Wonderful. Rep. Santucci, I'll ask if you have anything to add. What have you watched as it's evolved over the last couple?
Yeah, I think Rep. John hit the nail on the head again. She's great. But, the Lake to River region, my market, has always been focused on steel manufacturing. We're now seeing that change, so now we're seeing more high-tech manufacturing come through, additive manufacturing, electric vehicle production, energy storage, additive manufacturing. So as the pendulum swings and technology moves, we talked about technology earlier, as technology advances, manufacturing is adapting and changing, which is a great thing because we can compete, globally. And so I have a stat here that the state's manufacturing employment has stabilized around 650,000 to 700,000 jobs, and average wages have steadily risen. So we're seeing the investment in manufacturing and the return on that, and I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Even just to see the different areas of manufacturing, that steel to now technology, and still keeping the pipes and keeping those intact too, right?
Yes.
Those are always going to be important, undoubtedly.
Always going to be important.
Yeah. So very neat to see that, how the state is growing and evolving in that. And I want to ask, kind of to wrap us up, how do you both feel that the legislature is going to continue to support and promote this industry? Anything on the horizon?
Well, again, I think education is really important, and the perception of what manufacturing is, we have to continue to get young people out to our manufacturers because they are very good paying jobs. And so whatever we can do to promote that through manufacturing days. I have a program that I started in county, Leader Richland, where we bring industry leaders in to talk to students in junior high
Yeah.
about different jobs that are available to them. So whatever we can do to kind of open the doors for manufacturers so that the public can see this is what is going on. These are the jobs that are available. And really just from a global standpoint, Ohio is open for business, and we have been for always.
Yeah.
And so whatever we can do to promote Ohio, Ohio is a great place to live, to raise a family. I mean, that's why my husband and I choose to be here. This is where we grew up, but we choose to be here.
Right.
And whatever we can do to continue just to promote that to our own residents, to the other 49 states and across the globe, I think is important. And something that we both, we want to spend our time, and especially our time in the legislature, doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that people, should understand that we are such a, riveting state with so many different areas to work in. So I appreciate you breaking down manufacturing. Rep. Santucci, anything else to add?
I think Rep. John's exactly right. Ohio's open for business, and I think the legislature is going to be very intentional on introducing, legislation or tax incentives for capital investment, supporting our local supply chains, legislation that will support regional partnerships and workforce development. And I think we're all committed to that. We want Ohio to grow and thrive and be number one nationally for everything. And I think we're moving in the right direction. Was a little slow to start, but I feel like we're on the right trajectory now. And I think we're going to get there. I think Ohioans will be very happy in the next couple of years.
Wonderful. Representative Marilyn John and Representative Nick Santucci, thank you for joining me on Message from the House.
Thanks,
For
Olivia.
having us.
Yes, quickly, our social media. You can follow us on the Ohio House GOP Caucus on Facebook, Ohio House _GOP on Instagram, and OHR GOP Caucus on Twitter. You can subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you both again.
Thank you.
Thank you.